We need to have a conversation about this groyping. Mainly, we need to have a conversation about its effectiveness. At the start, it made perfect sense, and what we was doing was great. Calling up radio stations and trying to get on air was a fantastic stroke of genius, and it has worked wonders for us. Going after trigonometry made sense, and going after the Britisher made sense. Unfortunately, at some stage during the Britisher campaign, it did kind of descend into bullying, which I was fine with because, well, he is the Britisher after all, with that absurd accent. At some stage after that, it descended into something very, very toxic, and it does need addressing. We need to look at the effectiveness of it. Is this concept of just randomly going into chats and spamming frogs doing anything? No, it isn't. I think objectively that is doing nothing at all. Is going into chats and spamming, we was never asked doing anything? Maybe. But there's an argument to be made for that sort of groyp. There is no argument to be made for the Alistair William groyps though. Yeah, we did that and it worked once. We actually got an answer, and we got a perfectly reasonable answer. He said, I don't remember which stream it was, and I will be paraphrasing. He said something along the lines of, I will have Laura on my podcast as soon as lockdown is over. Now, while that doesn't sound like an answer, what that actually says is the man sees his YouTube live streams as a separate entity to his podcast. That's it. That should have been the end of the groyps. From that point on, we've done nothing but harass a man into a near mental breakdown. While it is mildly amusing, I will grant that, it isn't doing anything for us. It's actually just making him look like a victim, because he fucking is, basically. We're just harassing this poor bastard for no real reason. Especially considering he's already given an answer, and he's given a completely reasonable answer. The way that he sees his social media presence, the YouTube thing is separate to his podcast thing. That's it. End of story, end of discussion. We no longer need to harass the man. Move on. And that actually does get on to moving on. What should be the next target? Should there even be a next target? I do not think so. I don't think this is doing anything for us. I think this is just harming us. We're going into places, we're spamming them, we're harassing them, and then we're expecting them to come over to our side. Well, you work out how that looks. Right? That is no different, really, to the feminist men and what they do. Those people that we really don't like do the exact same thing. They come into our spaces, and then they try and silence us. They try to silence us with shame, which is bullying, effectively. It's just the different side of a coin to what we're doing. We're not doing terribly much different to what our enemies are doing, yet for some reason we think it's acceptable, because we, for some reason, think we're being the bigger men, when we're not. Instead, we're just ganging up on an individual or a couple of people and acting as if we're the righteous ones, as if we're the ones in the right. We're not taking into account optics. We're not taking into account how this looks. It looks absolutely atrocious, and there's no way around it. In order to judge the effectiveness of groyping, you just have to look at the number of people who have come onto our side after a groyp. We never really know the effectiveness of radio groyping, but I expect that to be very, very, very high because of the way that it is done. That should be our focus. Groyping the likes of the Britisher, yeah, I can see an argument there. Sargon as well, okay. Trigonometry, okay. There's an argument to be made. We just need to refine how we do it, because just going in and spamming 14 and spamming frogs, it's not doing anything. You're not changing anybody's mind by just spamming frogs or by spamming, demographics constantly. You're not doing anything. Demographics actually maybe a little bit, but probably not. Furthermore, we need to speak about our leadership capacity in all of this. Groyping is not doing anything to really better ourselves as individuals. It is fun, I'll grant that to an extent, but it isn't doing anything. We're not expanding our knowledge, we're not expanding our own personal abilities. Ultimately, we are the ones at the vanguard of this. We need people to follow us. Well, the only way to do that realistically is by becoming better. Becoming better and becoming someone that people want to follow, somebody that people want to be around. That's not to say that every single one of us involved in this at the moment will go on to become leaders, but we do need a fair number of us to do it. We need people to come up with new ideas, not just new ways to grope people, but new ways to be and to act and to think. We need fresh ideas.